for hours on end, making it all run perfectly again. This seems to coincide with other creative processes. I remember one day David Crosby and Graham Nash were visiting me at the train barn during the recording of American Dream, a lot of which we did on my ranch at Plywood Digital, a barn that was converted to a recording studio. We had a truck parked outside, full of recording equipment, and were working on several new songs. We were all pretty excited about playing together again. Crosby had recently gotten straight, was recovering from his addiction to freebase, had just completed jail time he got for something having to do with a loaded weapon in Texas, and was still prone to taking naps between takes. His system was pretty much in shock, and he was doing the best he could because he loves the band and the music so much. There is no one I know who loves making music more than David Crosby. Graham Nash has been his best friend for years, through thick and thin, and they sing together in a way that shows the depth of their long relationship. They met in the Hollies and the Byrds, two seminal bands in the history of rock and roll, and then came together with Stephen Stills to form Crosby, Stills and Nash around 1970. CSN's first record is a work of art. It defined a sound that has been imitated for years by other groups, some of which have enjoyed greater commercial success, but there can be no mistaking the groundbreaking nature of that first CSN album. Stephen played most of the music then, overdubbing all the parts during the night with Dallas Taylor, the drummer, and Graham. There was so much Stephen had wanted to do with Buffalo Springfield in the years just before, like producing, writing, and arranging harmonies, as well as playing more guitar. And CSN was his first opportunity to be really creative after the Springfield ended, and he went for it big time. But more about that later. Anyway, I saw David looking at one of my train rooms full of rolling stock and stealing a glance at Graham that said, "This guy is cuckoo. He's gone nuts. Look at this obsession." I shrugged it off. I need it. For me, it is a road back. Anyway, now I'm polishing the glass on one of the display shelves that houses my collection. With the glass all cleaned and sparkling, I stand in the room alone and admire the beautiful Lionel models, all perfectly lined up in an order that only I understand. I leave that building and walk about 150 feet over to Feelgood's garage. Feelgood's is full of my amps, old Fenders mostly, but also some Magnetones, Marshalls, and the odd Gibson. I remember my first Fender amp. I got it as a gift from my mom. She always supported my music. It was a piggyback model that was on top of the speaker cabinet. Two 10-inch speakers delivered the whopping sound of the smallest piggyback amp Fender ever made. But to me, it was huge. Before that, I had an Ampeg Echo Twin. I used to dream about amps and stage setups in school, drawing diagrams and planning stage layouts. I didn't do real well in those classes. Feelgood's has my cars, too. I have a thing for transportation. Cars, boats, trains, traveling. I like moving. Once when I was walking along a street in L.A. at age 22 or 23, I saw a place called Al Axelrod's. It was a car repair place. There was a red convertible's rear end poking out of the garage. I recognized it as a 53 or 54 Buick. When I was young, one of my dad's friends, the writer Robertson Davies, lived near us in Peterborough, Ontario. We used to go to his house every Christmas and play charades at a party. He had a bunch of daughters. Very exciting. Anyway, he also had a 54 Buick. It was brand new and made a large impression on me with its beautifully designed grille, taillights, and an overall shape that featured a kind of bump or ripple in the lines at about the midpoint, accentuated by a chrome strip that mirrored it. This ripple emanated from the rear wheel's circular well and was unique to Buicks. So I went inside Al Axelrod's and saw my first Buick Skylark. It really blew my mind. Only about 1,690 of that model were ever made. It was custom chopped at the factory about the same time as GM introduced the Eldorado and the Corvette. I looked for a Skylark for years after that, and finally John McCaig found one in a body shop in Pleasanton, California. John was a Vietnam vet who was taking care of my cars. He was an excellent body and paint man. I had him do a job for me, and then I hired him to come and work for me taking care of the 35 cars I'd acquired by then. All of them were wild designs, mostly from the 50s, a lot of Cadillacs. I was not overly interested in their mechanical condition when I bought them, just one of those unique shapes. That turned out to have been a big mistake, because most of them didn't run well and took a lot of time and money to restore.